And welcome to the show. It's Lee Michaels and the crew. It's Thursday night, 9 o'clock on the East Coast, 8 p.m. in the Midwest. Out here on the West Coast, it's just a little after 6 o'clock. Thank you for joining us today. Every Thursday we do it at this time. It's called Thursday Night Live with Five Guys and You. You are the major part of this show. And I want to thank you for taking the time to be a part of the show and participating. You can chat with us in the chat room. Tell us your thoughts. If you agree or disagree with our points of view, that's all good. It's no problem, whether you agree or disagree. And share, like, and subscribe. If you're over on YouTube, definitely subscribe. We're trying to build up our YouTube base, and you can help us out by subscribing. Thank you again for joining us, and let me bring in the team here one by one. First of all, Dr. Ron. Hey, man, how you doing?
What up, what up, what up? How y'all doing, man? It's Thursday night, man. I'm so excited, man. I'm always excited to be here, man. You know, I'm just glad you guys let me hang out with you.
Yeah, no problem. The invoice is in the mail.
Thank you. Thank you.
We definitely charge you for being a part of the show.
And I will gladly play in hamburgers on next Thursday for this Thursday's show.
Okay, that's fine. Your credit is good with us. What are you talking about tonight?
Man, we're going to have a special guest tonight, man. I got a young lady coming on board to talk to us about, we've been, back and forth, having this conversation about community and policing and things of that nature. So I got somebody that's going to, on the front line, come and help us out with information.
All right. I like that front line attitude. Yeah, we need that. We need big participation of frontline advocates and activists out on the streets to make things better in our neighborhoods. And the Yoda Man. What's up, Yo?
Hey. Another day in paradise. All good.
I know that's right. What do you got on your plate tonight?
I'm going to piggyback on Ron and Chris because Chris has got a doozy tonight, so I'm just going to ride along with you guys.
All right. You're going to be the man
rider
sitting on the shoulder, the commentary response man. Hey, Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Hearty boom shakalaka to you and all my brothers there. What I'm going to talk about today is the following. Can one person bring forth change? A man named Roy Miller did just that. I'll tell you who he is coming up next.
All right. And let's go see what the professor's got going on tonight. How you doing, Pro? You got to turn on your mic. There you go.
I am wonderful. I had to reach back and get it. I am wonderful. Glad to be here and to share with the brothers. Of course, this is a great day for me because I've had an epiphany.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what might that be?
Free your mind and your attitude will follow.
A little spin on that, huh?
Yes, I had to do it, taking that from the realm. And, I've been saturated with this realm for so long. And the burning question I must ask again, how's your funk intellecty? Or
funky
intellecty. So
it's funky.
That's where I am. Free your mind and your attitude will follow.
Well, there's so much to talk about in the news. I don't know where to start. I mean, I think we need to do this show more often because in a week's time, so much has been just unfolding and it's sometimes mind-boggling just how bad things have gotten. I mean, the amount of gun violence in the streets. I mean, not just in Chicago or some of the other high crime areas, but everywhere. Here in Vegas, man, every day there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 shootings and crazy car wrecks. One jackass ran up on 20 women on the Strip here in Las Vegas, injured 20 women. I mean, what the hell's going on? Why are people so crazy? Is it because we were on the lockdown for 9-10 months and now we're just losing it? No, you don't think so? I see you shaking your head, Pro. Professor?
No,
What do you think it is?
No, I think this is an after effect of the relationship we had in the White House, because everybody figured they could do whatever they want. He did it. So
And you think it's maybe revenge?
I don't know if it's revenge, but I know it's a bunch of dumb stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna leave it at that, because everybody feels like, well, if he can do whatever he wants, then I mean, it's like everything's a go now.
That's a shame, because lives are being lost and people are being hurt, and it's just nuts. I've never seen it so bad before.
For 14 months, he did nothing on the job. For 14 months.
Yeah.
Nothing. And you got people still wanting to support doing nothing for 14 months.
And how many people have they arrested so far from the invasion of the Capitol? What, over 400 now?
Yeah, I think they still rounded them up. It's so crazy. A lot of the people, I mean, they got that white privilege thing going on. That's the biggest
you gotta
problem
be careful.
right there.
You got to be careful when you say that, because one of our radio buddies, Apollo, got kicked off of Facebook for responding to what somebody else had said. He made reference to it being not white privilege, but was it complexion protection? And they've banned him for life.
Are you kidding me?
No,
Real?
for real. Yeah.
Really?
Here's a white guy
Yeah.
calling out the obvious, and they kicked him off.
Wow.
There's a way around that.
Oh, okay.
I hope so. He's devastated by it, because he had several other pages connected to his main,
Wow.
login.
I don't know about him. I don't know what I can do for him, but to protect yourself moving forward, when you make comments on Facebook, that even if you're talking about white bread, don't spell the word white correctly. I do WH asterisk TE.
Oh,
Whenever, because it fools the bots. The bots are looking for certain words.
Yeah, phrases and words.
Yeah,
Yep.
So,
man, that's cold. Because,
Yeah.
I solved that long time ago. I just said the letters YT.
there you go.
So from now on, I will make reference to people of privilege, and just leave it right there. Y'all fill in the other part. People of privilege.
YT, that's it.
Hey,
Yeah.
can we define what that is? Because I've heard the people of privilege say this every time that I've brought this up. I've learned how to counter it, but I'm curious as to what you guys think. They say, "Hey, I had to work for everything that I've ever gotten. I don't have any privilege." What do you say to that?
They're naive or think you're stupid.
Well, what is privilege to you? How do you explain that to someone that doesn't understand?
Well, I think that most people use that phrase when we see things that happen and people of color get locked up, shot in the head, should be out there, or in my bag, locked up, shot, choked, knee on the neck, and then people who are doesn't have the same melanin in their skin, do the same thing, and they get an escort home, or, hey, man, get out of here, dropped off at Burger King.
Right. So if I might summarize what you're saying, and correct me if I'm not summarizing you accurately, some of what privilege is, and maybe most of what privilege is what doesn't happen to you, what you don't have to experience. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Because this is how I explain it. I give an example of everyday life that virtually every adult I've ever met has experienced. I can't think of one person that hasn't gone through what I'm about to describe. And that is being pulled over by a police officer. right? That's happened to everybody. If you drive a car, you're getting pulled over at some point in time, right? And from conversing with certain people, the ones that have privilege, and asking them, what goes through your mind when you get pulled over? And usually it's like, oh man, I get frustrated because I'm going to be late now. I get upset if I think I'm going to get more points on my license. I really don't want more points on my license. My insurance might go up. It's just a hassle. That's what they think. So I ask them, did you ever think that this could be the last few minutes of your life? Never. Never occurs to a certain segment of society. That's privilege. Not having to worry about that kind of thing is a privilege. It's got nothing to do with how much money you make or whether you struggled or not in life. Everyone's got to work for what they get. It's got to do with that. And the other thing, an added layer to that, is something that we've talked about on the show before. We've all referenced this, especially those of us with sons. One thing that people of color have to explain to their children is how to behave when you get pulled over so you are not murdered by the police.
And that's a shame that we have to do that.
For the people that never have to explain that to their children, that is a privilege. I yield my time.
Yeah, that's very true. I totally agree with the gentleman of Chocolate Yoda.
It's a shame that we have to do that, but we do. Because we love and care for our family members. And it's a shame that we have to have a different standard than other people.
And it's a privilege not to be encumbered by any of that.
Yeah, exactly.
But other people have to want to try to at least have communication. And at times we have communication breakdown between other races. Or just some people don't give a damn and don't want to even learn about the experience or try to understand. When I was younger, my family and myself used to go on summer vacation like most families did. So one time we went out to Wisconsin in the summertime and was a part of this vacation. Various people, had come from Milwaukee and, of course, the surrounding suburbs and states and cities. And so I met this guy about my age. I'm like 13 at the time, about 13 in the 80s during the decade. And so he was white, and we got a chance to hit it off, good dude. And then I realized we were talking about certain programs, and he liked, the A-Team. Now, I liked Mr. T, but I wasn't like into Mr. T like that. And then I realized every time he talked to me, hey, man, let's go play some golf. Hey, man, let's go down and get something to eat. And I said, why the hell are you talking to me like, oh, you think because I'm black that I had to relate to Mr. T? I said, dude, let's settle down. Now, first of all, I'll learn how to play golf for the first time. I've always wanted to play golf. I'm learning about woods and irons and, how to keep score. And he told, hey, man, get on the back nine. And I was like, dude, slow down. And apparently never been around black people before. We all don't talk like this. We don't have our hair in the mohawk, and we don't have gold chains around our necks like that. So once I sat down to talk to him about it, he came around, he apologized. He said, I don't hang around black people, I'm sorry. He was trying to be kind. But once we broke that barrier down, talk just like anybody else. And so we use that as an example because I think certain people get nervous, obviously. They don't want to cross the bridge or come to the point of maybe having more in common than not in common. But that takes the person or person involved who want to hear what the other person's going through in their lives. Going back to what you said, Yoda, about privilege. If you don't have that in your life, you have no idea what the person's talking about. It must be great to get into your car and not worry about being pulled over and not fearing for your life or having that conversation with sons and daughters nowadays. We see what happened to men and women of color. It has to be a whole different dynamic, which it is. But if we're able to have an honest dialogue about what people go through, we can start breaking down those barriers if the person wants to listen.
Yeah, they got to want to dance, and if they don't want to dance, then it's not going to be a change. Nothing's going to change. So hopefully people will get it. Chris, why don't you bring us your topic now? And I think there'll be a nice roll into kind of a bridge.
I didn't even say nothing, man.
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead.
You know, Bass, I'm gonna be brief. When a person says that stuff about what you say, Yoda, what they say,
I've had to work for everything that
I've got. You know, I call that playing the nut roll. You know, I call that because see, that's just an excuse. That's a smoke screen. Because you're trying to suggest to me that I should do the same thing to get like you. When you know that's not true. You know that. Mm-hmm. When you make that statement coming out your mouth, you already know that. Because I can work and do everything like you and not get paid.
Well, come on now.
So you know that's just a nut, bro. That's a magician's trick. You know, a magician throw his hand over here, but the trick is on the other side.
Exactly, the illusion.
Yeah.
Yep.
Get out of here. You already know. You already know.
Plausible diversion.
Yeah, you just saying that to me. We call that in the neighborhood signifying. We call that in the neighborhood signifying. You ain't doing nothing but say, man, if you work hard, come on, man. I done worked hard. I built it. Never mind. Go ahead, Lee. You know I built that stuff. Go ahead, Lee.
With that note, let's go ahead and transition to the bass man, because I think he's got an interesting topic, and interesting enough, Billy Bass is making a comment. But go ahead, let's fire it up.
All right, thank you so much. So I mentioned before in the tease, can one person bring forth change? And Roy Miller has done so. Roy Miller is an attorney based out of Macon, Georgia, and he gifted his niece with a dictionary. And the dictionary, she liked the gift, but she wanted to return to her uncle because she saw a word there that offended her, and that was the N-word. And the definition went as follows: a Negro or member of any dark-skinned people, a vulgar and offensive term. So she saw this and said, you know, with all due respect, Uncle, this makes me feel very uncomfortable because it's referring to me. So based upon that exchange, attorney Roy Miller, through his efforts, successfully petitioned the dictionary that was printed by Funk and Wagnalls. This was back in, say, what was it I got here? March of 1994, to have the N-word removed from the dictionary. And successfully he did so, just by that one encounter with his niece. And you can imagine, you know, other gifts that people received over the years, and it has the N-word in it. But it only takes one person. And for him to have that much of an impact that his niece felt, I don't want the book because it defines people of color. And for him to go one step further, to contact the vice president and editorial director, Leon L. Braun, who responded back to him saying that from this day forward, saying that the N-word will be deleted from all forthcoming printings. And that to me is huge. And not only huge, it all goes back to us individually of how we've embraced the word. I do recall back in the day when Reverend Jesse Jackson had the ceremony to bury the N-word. Then years later, he's on Fox News talking about Barack Obama. He's caught with his mic down and uses the N-word himself. Now, I thought you buried it. You did the ceremony and then what, you went back to resurrect, brought the N-word back from the grave and used it for yourself? When we do things like that, it's obviously up to us. And I'm not judging anybody because we've all used from somewhere, date and time and day, and that's fine. But going back to, for one person, and the responsibility of what Attorney Miller did to get that removed is beyond incredible. So it gets people to say, you know what, if he can do that just by penning one letter back in the mid-90s to get it effectively removed from the Funk and Wagnalls version dictionary, that's beyond progressive.
Now, there's only that one dictionary. What about Webster and some of the others?
Well, I think they still have those.
So the struggle is not over.
No, but we got off to a start just by one person.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm quite surprised that he was able to make that accomplishment. I mean, because it's used so loosely and different today, and I have tried to accept it, but I can't. It's just I can't wrap my arms around it. I can't do it.
Right.
And it's because of I came through the the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and it was painful.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't put sugar on it to make it taste better, smell better, feel better, look better for me. And it's buried as far as I'm concerned.
Right. And rightfully so. And going back to a real quick of a quote coming from, once again, Leon L. Brown, the vice president and editorial director of Funk and Wagnall's dictionary, says to Mr. Miller, your niece is fortunate in having an uncle as concerned and caring as you are. And that goes to all the uncles and to all the nieces and nephews, everybody else, where if you just take one stance, you never know the change you're going to make, not only in the lives between an uncle and a niece, but everybody else involved beyond.
Now, how do you guys feel about what Red Beans and Rice has posted?
I gotta read it.
Again, the N-word does not refer to people of color. It is used to denigrate black people. Don't get it twisted. Red Beans and Rice said that.
Yes, he did.
I just want to ask one question. When did black become a pronoun or a proper noun? When did the word black become a proper noun? Isn't a proper noun something that describes a particular person, place, or thing?
Go ahead. Educate now, Professor. Yeah, I mean...
Anytime you see that word written in the paper, it's with a small b. It's with a small b because how can you, what country is named black? I mean, just tell me what country is named black? In my knowledge, black meant something painted, stained, or dyed. So, but name me one country in this entire world that's named B-L-A-C-K. And I see people capitalizing the word B. There's no such thing. That's not a proper noun. There is no country that's associated. There's no country that's associated with black. None. They got Nigerians, Rhodesians, Kenyans, Ethiopians. I mean, I'm just saying. And anytime that the journalists write that word comes with a small b, referring to us. You can look at any paper right now, anything you got. When you see that word black and it's referring to a race or a group of people, it's with a small b. But if you talk about the Irish, the I is capitalized. If you talk about the Swedish, the S is capitalized. If you talk about Italians, the I is capitalized. So what country is named black? I yield the rest of my time.
So there lies the problem in your mind, right?
Right.
So there's no way around that. I mean, because either you call yourself Americans, then you can get the capital A. If you call yourself Black American,
you just let the first one got to be a small b.
So it's no win.
None whatsoever. So they tried to make it cool, call it Afro. We were AA.
Yep. Well,
hold on. Now, Red Beans and Rice said it has officially changed. Doesn't have to be associated with the country. It can be associated with people. Or what is it?
Yeah, I think that. Yeah,
it must be people.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm cool with that, but I'm not gonna buy that because I want to be associated with a country. Because that's how your rights are, that's how you get recognized in this country. That's why other foreigners can come over here and put a store in my neighborhood. Because they have a country of origin. We're the only people that accepts that we don't have to have a country nowhere. So I mean, I'm gonna go. You can go along with that, but I'm not. Because I want to know my nationality.
And what does officially mean anyway? I mean, are we what body decided? I don't even know. I don't know what any of that means.
I mean, so this is what I say, folks. But look, listen from my name should indicate where I come from. My last name is Miles. There ain't nowhere in the world I'm Irish or I'm from Ireland. That's the origin of my name. But that was taken from us through the period that we went through. But your name should indicate where you come from. If your name is Steinne, you're German. If it's Ski, you're from Poland.
We inherited the name of the person who purchased our ancestors.
Absolutely.
So
that's what I'm saying.
We were lost at that juncture, at that moment. Things completely changed. Your identity was lost. It's like the movie with Kunta Kinte.
That's right. That's why they cut his foot off, because he had to relent and say it. I mean, I'm with you 100% on that. But like I said, I ain't nowhere in the world that I'm going to ascribe to being a capital B.
It's an interesting topic. We could do a whole show on this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna table this for now. We have a guest here, and Dr. Ron, this is your guest. So do the intro.
Yes, I know for the last couple of weeks we have been talking about the subject of what goes on with policing and community activities in our community, and we have the honor and the privilege to have with us today Ms. Delilah Goree, who has a community organization in the city of Chicago. Her organization has been responsible for being on the front line, trying to deal with violence in the community. She has hosted events such as No Crime Day. She has done many events of that caliber throughout her, community activism. She's also good friends with a friend of ours, Gus Redmond, because Gus has worked with her with, many of the organizational things that she's done in the community. So we'd like to welcome to the show today to give us some of her opinion on what we can do, and give pointers to what everybody can take away with some of the things that they're doing and use it in wherever they may be throughout the country. So, Ms. Goree, welcome to the show.
No, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to actually be on with you all tonight. Just briefly, what I do is I deal with a lot of the seniors and I deal with a lot of the youth in the community. It started off working in Inglewood. I spent majority of my career as a police officer in Inglewood, and we just felt the need that we needed to do a lot more in the community because, of course, right, the community looks like me, and so I wanted to make sure that we gave those kids opportunities to go outside of the block, because you know a lot of kids in certain communities, all they know is just the corner store, and they go on that main strip in their community to go shop and sightsee. So what we did was we created a radio program out of Kennedy King College. We had Harold Lee Rush as our radio personality for the kids. So it's like, this was like a summer program. We did it for like 6 weeks. The parents had to come out, nothing out of their pockets. We actually went to the stores and asked the stores to, like, you know, donate, to buy shirts and donate food for the kids every day. So every day we had the restaurant make food, and we took the kids on trips, like taking them downtown. Like, these kids never ever been downtown, some of them. So it was just amazing for them to go downtown. So we took them to, like, you know how old this is. So we took them to like let them sit there, be with the personalities, talk to these people that they actually hear on the radio. So we ended up taking them to Springfield. But what I did was, there was a twist, because, you know, youth, they don't respect our elders. So I combined my youth with my seniors. So a lot of the seniors I had, you know, their kids are grown, they stay out of the town, and some of them didn't have grandchildren. So I paired those children with those seniors when we went on that trip to Springfield. And the kids got to, when I ordered the food, I had the youth bringing the seniors their food. So it's like, you're showing them respect and you serving them. So it's like the seniors have a personality of looking at the youth like they lost and they damaged, because some are, but they need to be redirected. If you don't show them, then they don't know, right? So those are the type of things that we did. We also brought in a father-daughter dance from our organization. So I brought that in within the police department. What that did was, it turned a lot of heads and it bridged the gap. So if that young lady didn't have a dad, we asked the mom to get the uncle. If there was no uncle, we asked them to get the brother. And if there was just nobody, then that's when the police came in. We wanted to use the police as the last resource. So those police officers escorted those girls in, as well as the dads. And the dads some of them were out there in the street. But guess what? While they were doing this dance, this father-daughter dance, they were able to bond with the police and see it on a different level. And these young ladies and the mothers that were there and the fathers was there, it was a whole different atmosphere from what you see in the street. Now you see this whole community coming together.
Excellent.
So what do you think the effectiveness of this interaction with the youth that you had, how effective was it? Would you say, was it very effective? Some of the reports, what are we getting, feedback?
Yeah. Are you using a laptop?
Yeah, I'm using a laptop.
Do you have some earbuds that you could plug in? Or headphones?
I don't have it. No. Is it a lot of feedback? Is that bad?
Yeah.
What's happening is the audio from us is coming back through your microphone, and there's a buzz in there as well.
Okay,
Did you on your screen? Did you make sure you click the box for echo cancellation on your microphone?
Yeah, that is checked.
Okay.
But it sounds like there's a hardware issue. There's a little buzz in there.
Yeah, I tried to do it on my other computer, but it won't even click up and let me get on.
Yeah.
This is my problem computer. Let me see if my daughter can bring me her earphones.
Yeah, we really want to be able to hear you better, because what you're sharing with us is some valuable information. So if you could maybe fix that, I'm gonna take you out for now, and we'll bring you back when you have things fixed up. So I've just muted her mic, so we'll keep her going there.
Okay, I know she can hear us, so that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't know that two of the guys that are here, Professor and Chris, Boom Shakalaka are alumni from Kennedy King. See, she may not know that. I don't know if she can do two things at one time. But when she comes back on, I'll make sure I mention that again. But, I'm interested to see what the results was from the youth that she had come in contact with, to see where they are now, what they're doing, Yeah. Let's see. Speaking of respect, since she's an attorney, how about calling her Attorney Goree? I don't think she's an attorney. Did she say she was an attorney?
No,
she's not an attorney. Okay.
Well, one of the programs, like what they were doing, what she's doing, what she's talking about with Harold Lee Rush and stuff. Me and Bass did that. We called it Knowledge Quest way back in the day, where we worked with the youth. And then there was my predecessor, he had called a YPN, and it was called the Young People's Network. And they worked that through the city. So, Kennedy King was like really seeding that trying to seed the youth to get them interested in radio, and then eventually become part of the program. That was like part of our recruitment strategy. we would have and that got some major funding. We would have high school students from certain high schools come in, and then we at some time during my tenure, I also wanted to do the high school games. Because we had an announcer. He's still there, Keith Reed. And so he was doing that, and that was part of the outreach that I was looking forward to do. So that the Knowledge Quest and the Young People's Network were both were funded. They were funded programs, government funded programs.
So now, did they track any of the results with those programs?
None of it. If anybody has some real quality information on it, it was like Dennis Snipe.
Okay.
And because he was like one of the originators of that, and then the YPN I think was disbanded in 1998 because it couldn't be reproduced because it was like chartered. It was not chartered, but it was an organization that already been there, so we could never use that name again, and nobody stepped up to fill that void, because at that time CCC they were kind of cool cool with their outreach. And I'm glad to see that program came back in to get people involved with the communications. So that was a good thing.
I think we have Delilah back now. Delilah?
Yes.
All right.
This better?
Yeah, much better.
Much better. Yes. Cool. Yeah. So now one of the questions that I was asking is of them, because I mentioned this to you a little while. I mentioned, but you probably couldn't hear me. Professor Reggie and Chris were both alumni of Kennedy King College back in the day when some of those things were going on, and he was given the information about it. Now, with your involvement and the program that you started, did you track any of the successes of any of the youth that were involved? Do you keep up with them now? Are they still, around trying to help the people behind them by giving them, life experiences or whatever, what they went through?
So we have 2 kids that actually joined the police department. We have several of them that we have written recommendations for. They went on and went to college. One graduated from Kennedy King, and the other ones kind of like, just fell off. We don't have contact with them, but we've attended some proms, send-offs, and stuff like that with some of the youth. So yeah, it's a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
they're doing pretty good.
How many years were you doing this now with the youth?
We did that for almost 4 years.
Okay.
Almost 4 years at Kennedy King.
Okay.
And I heard you mention Dennis Snipes.
Yeah.
Dennis Snipes was one of our great backers with it. Like whatever we needed in the organization, he helped us with the kids. It was Dennis Snipes, Marcella Jones, Carol, I think her last name Adams, I'm not for sure. Harvey, Brown, Kevin Brown, Abe Thompson, all of those guys, and Harold Lee Rush were like excellent with helping the kids. They even went to the studio side at Kennedy King, and they got a little bit of learning how to, you know, do the videos, and they showed them how to do the board. Greg Murray taught them how to do sound bites and make all of this stuff that I just did not know that goes along with the radio, like breaking in between and all of that kind of stuff. I kind of forget the terminology, but just everything that goes along with radio. Like you don't have to just be on radio, but you can learn how to handle the sound, be the person that creates the music every day. So that way, if there's nobody here, it's going to automatically play. So, I mean, they just educated those kids big time, and it was keeping them off the street. And this is especially in the summertime. Like we need that now, you know, more than ever, because these kids are not in school. They out, you know, their parents are at work or wherever their parents are. They're not doing anything productive. Not all, but some of the kids are not doing things productively.
So this program doesn't exist anymore?
No, not now. Not now. Not during this COVID.
Yeah. Okay. But it will come back.
We hoping that it comes back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it definitely should come back. Ms. Goree, let me let you know that you're doing fantastic work. The people you mentioned at WKKC and Kennedy King, I'm sorry, the Kennedy King College, the people you mentioned, those names, I've had the honor of working with or know of, and it's like the old Allstate. You were in good hands with all those people because they care. And that's the one thing about it. Once you care about the youth and about the generations coming next and things like that, like I said before about radio, you don't have to be on the mic. You can be behind the scenes producing and imaging, as they say nowadays, and it's about videoing. Someone's going to connect to something, but you have to be in that environment and a nurtured environment on top of that. So everything has to come together in some way, shape, or form. So just the fact that you were able to take that time to care, to set up the environment for these younger people to be involved, that's just a fantastic start. And again, someone who probably does not know what they want to do, has some idea of what they want to do, being in an environment, get a chance to experiment and take it from there. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. I echo the same sentiments, and myself being a former station manager at Kennedy WKKC. I ran it for some years, and some of those programs, like I was deaf on that program, wanted to get the kids there, especially having community volunteers, anything that we could do to help push those youth, get them more involved with radio and programming. That it started off with the Young People's Network, and then we had Knowledge Quest, and that Knowledge Quest program was like every Friday from like 3. They kids had it from 3 to 7, I think. Yeah, it was 3 to 7. One of my students went on. One of the students in the program went on and went to Tennessee State University, and is doing radio. One of the and like one of the graduates and one of the high school students there was in the program was my first cousin, and I didn't even know that on my granddad's side. And so it was a lot of things we did, and a lot of things that happened because I used to call it the little station with the big sound. And we definitely tried to do things, doing something good in the hood of Inglewood, because, Inglewood had always had that bad stigma. It was always bad, Inglewood this, Inglewood that. But, there's a gentleman I know that lived on 57th Street and Normal, who's a professor at Harvard University. I was a professor at Howard University, and we both came from Inglewood. So all it takes is for someone to care. And I applaud you for caring for the youth and, showing them a way, because, showing them the way, because people trying to tell them, people trying to tell them, you don't need to listen to radio. Radio's not this, radio's not this. That's the best thing. It's still the most personal of all mediums. It's still the most personal, and we should not give it up. We should not give it up.
So
say that about the radio. So what we did, one of the things that we made sure was that these kids got in groups, because we wanted them to learn how to work together and come to ideas. So we had them do politics, speak about politics, speak about crime in Chicago. The other set spoke about school, and then we talked about the news, what happened on the news, and what's happening in sports. And each week they would change the different topics. Absolutely. And on Mondays, they had to come in and work together collaboratively in that group, because we're showing them you got to work together in order to get on this radio and speak. Because everybody want to get on the radio, but you got to know what you're going to say. You got to know what you're going to do. So that Monday, they got everything squashed. So then at the end, we give them so many hours. They got to stand up and tell us what they're going to talk about on the radio. So when they come in on Tuesday, they go right on in and they get on the radio and they speak with Harold Lee and they do their topics like as if they're on the news. And it was just to look at them and see like they felt proud and confident in themselves as to what they did. You give them that opportunity to express themselves. And then the way they talked about school and how, like, I started making them look at the news, my partner and I. So when they started looking at the news and they started saying, it was like, man, I'm looking at the news and I didn't know that this was happening and this happening in my neighborhood and this and that. I say, yes, because you're supposed to be aware of what's happening at all times, because you never know. It could be something happening right next door to you. And y'all like tunnel vision. Y'all go outside and just go up and down the street.
One of the greatest supporters at Kennedy King College throughout the years was the vice president of media sales at BET, Louis Carr. And his brother Jeff, young brother Jeff was at Kennedy King College, and investing in the youth, giving them different types of programs. When the new youth and the high schoolers came to me, I'd send them to Chris. Y'all got to do news first. You couldn't even talk on the radio. You couldn't even play a record unless you'd had to do news first. You had to talk about what was going on in your local area. No music, none of that. Well, if a person was pretty good at, getting acclimated to the board, but their talk sets definitely had to be about news, and they had to rewrite them. And anybody that got on the air while I was the manager at Kennedy King College, they could not do a show first until after they did news. And so that's why Bass was there with Mr. Bass was there with me, because he taught them how to do the news. Mm-hmm. That's what happened to me when I got there.
And I thank you for that again, because this was back in, I got to KKC as news director around March of 1998 during this time. And, Professor was the operations manager, and he made it mandatory. Now, once again, you talk about teenagers who don't want to do anything news related. I mean, someone kicking and screaming, "Oh, Mr. Bass, I want to know that damn news." All right, to tell you what you just said to me, type that out 25 times. So, I had to make them learn it. But it got to a point, eventually, when you get into something new, and they started to do it, and they bought into it. Hey, Mr. Bass, I'm sorry. No, it's all right. No, you were John, and you didn't want to do no goddamn news. I got that. Take that same kinetic energy and put it into your work instructor doing news, sports, and weather. Once they bought into it, it was a great rotation of various students being a part of it. It was fantastic.
So my question is, all right, with the experience of what you had in relationship with Kennedy King, what is it that you see on the front line right now that we need to advise people how to try to help as many young people as we can now? Because that is the root of a lot of the trouble that's out there, young people, and not being able to reach them, not being able to talk to them So you're on the front line. You know, you've been on the front line for a while now, and you've had a passion for this. So what is the best gold nugget you can give us all, no matter where we are right now?
I would say that we basically, everybody, you know, it takes a village. We have to go out there. We have to talk to these kids, get these organizations, bring them all together collaboratively, and just go out in the street and have events and fairs and have, you know, like organizations to sign these kids up, and even the ones that have been incarcerated, they can't get a job. You know, I deal with a Safer Foundation. I call them when I do stuff out in the street. When I get off work, you know, I pick a date and I'm off, and I'll just go out the street and do like food boxes. I'll go and have one of my lodge brothers to go pick up the food. We'll get like 500 boxes of food, and we'll go out on the corner, and I'll have a Safer Foundation come out, and they'll have their paperwork, and they'll, you know, guys to come up, and it would be like, you know, you need a job. Are you a felon? You know, and if you say he is, be like, hey, sign up right now with us. We're going to help you get a job. They get a bus card, and they come down to Safer Foundation, and they help them get jobs. So these are the things that we got to do. We got to stop talking and just get out there on the street and just do it. I don't like dealing with people that do this. On my off day, this is my off day. So I know that I'm going to get these 500 boxes of food to distribute to the community. So come on out, bring your organization, bring Gen Care, bring all these senior citizen organizations, bring the youth programs, whatever you got, and we're going to get these people involved. When they pick up boxes, this is the best time to talk to them. So that's what we got to do. We just got to get the organization, just go out there, not talk about, sit up and, you know, I get tired of sitting up in Zooms talking about, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then the next week, we talking the same thing about step A, and then you got all these subtitles. No, we're going to do it. Call these people, say, hey, meet us here. Let's go out here and let's go do it. And that's what we have to do.
And I have to applaud you and say this, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, you did just that. You were passing out food in the community about a week and a half ago. When was that?
Yeah, last week, 124th and Halsted. And as soon as I drove past, that's when the young guys were shooting, and the truck went right into a lounge on 120th and Halsted, 4 blocks down from where we were giving a food giveaway.
Wow. Yeah. Yep. And that, you know, that's been your most effective weapon, is feeding people. That's it. You know, that's the ones that gets their attention. You know, give them some food.
That's how you get them. They come in, they driving in, young and old. You talk to them. Hey, here go a flyer to this place. You know, the young guys are walking up and down the street. You know, you go in them targeted areas where you know that there's a need. You got to hit those targeted areas. And when you're doing that, that's when you can hit everybody all at once.
What do you think we can do as a community to curtail, to stop bringing end to the violence in our neighborhoods? I know it's not a 1, 2, 3 answer.
It's not. In our community, we know our kids. We know what our kids are doing. We need to start getting on them and holding them accountable by calling the police. You know, if you see your child in the early stages of getting ready to go out of control, get them some help. Get them some help, because there are a lot of kids out here hurting DNA wise, you know, parents on drugs, you know, just parent not at home giving them that love. But we have to bring out these mental health issues, because a lot of that is mental health issues, believe it or not, in this community. And you gotta start from somewhere, and it's starting from home. I mean, I was a school officer, and I'll tell you this story. The little boy, the school couldn't control him. So when I got there, he was running around, he was screaming, He literally pulled the water fountain out the wall, and this little boy was about 8 or 9 years old. Running around the school, he was cussing, "I don't give a F. F y'all, ain't no MF gonna touch me." And because we officers are trained, we're crisis intervention trained, so we deal with PTSD soldiers, we deal with everybody that's going through mental illness. So I was able to calm him down and talk to him, but I had to wait for Saz to get there. And of course, the mother, she tired of coming back and forth to the school. You call her, she wasn't even answering the phone. So there are problems.
Because she had given up hope. Is it because she had given up hope?
She was tired. She was tired. Yeah. As a mother, you're tired. If you're working all the time, and I take it that the father was not in the picture because there was no number for the father, no mention of the father. So, you know, you're a single mother and you're trying to work, and your child has issues, and they need to be addressed. And I can only imagine that it's hard. So that's why I said we have to start at home. If we know our children have issues, then we need to seek help. If we can't help them ourselves with the discipline and talking to them, and none of that is working, then we have to go to that. And you think about it, back in the days, our grandparents were saying, we don't go outside this house to go get help. We're gonna pray on this. Well, I'm sorry. These kids need help. They need counseling. They need somebody to talk to. I don't think that they all need to be on medicine, because I think that's a poison, but that's another topic. But I just think that we have to realize that some of these kids now, they need help. They need help as far as counseling. And then when you don't help them, guess what happens when they get older? It elevates and it gets worse.
Will they accept the help?
Well, that's when you have to start early. And that's what I'm saying. You got to start at home. From when you know that your child is not listening and not responding and acting up in school in 2nd and 3rd grade, find out what the root of the problem is. Go get the help. Go get your child evaluated. And a lot of parents are in denial that there's a problem with their child. And then what happens? Police officers come to the house like me, and it's a disciplinary problem. Like, why are we coming? But they have no control. You know, we mother, we father, we counselors, we everything.
Let me ask you a question, and it's kind of off the topic, but not really. The situation in Ohio, when the officer shot the young lady with the knife in her hand. Are you familiar with that story? If you were that officer coming up on that situation, would you have handled it differently? Or was that the only solution to that situation?
Well, I don't want to touch on that, but I would have to be in that situation to actually tell you. You have to be in that situation. Everybody foresees it differently, being out there on the street. So what he's seen as a threat may have well have been a threat to him. It may have been a threat to me, and it may not have been a threat to me. So, yeah.
Spoken like a true politician.
No, I think she gave a good answer. I accept that answer.
What I say, and I mean it, you know, it's your comfort level. It's how you perceive it. Just like with the Toledo, and I don't really want to get into details about that either, but because I'm not a professional to speak on that. But I tell people, because it happened to me, running in the dark after somebody shot at me in Inglewood. So your adrenaline's pumping, and you got to think about it. That person know where they going that has a weapon, right? We don't know where that person going when you running after them and you in a dark alley. And that's all I can say about that. You know, I want to go home. Professor Reggie.
Yep.
I just got to ask a question. what happened to the softball game? I mean, to the sports leagues in the summer for the kids. What happened to that? Because I know me coming up, I was look, at 10, 11, 12 years old, I was trying to play 16-inch softball or league ball or something.
And we had that. We had that in Inglewood, and we did that. We helped manage that with Imagine Inglewood and Rage when we was working in community policing in Inglewood. So it was going. Now with COVID,
right, everything stopped.
Everything is falling apart. But the one thing is that we are trying to see if we can do something like that this summer over in the Morgan Park in the West Pullman neighborhood, trying to see if we can get a basketball. We're going to need some help. We're going to need some sponsors if we do it. And we're going to have to try to find ways that we can do protocols so we can protect these babies. But we also want to do it so that they can have something to do and be off the street. Because we already know with the high rate of shootings that's going on right now, I can only imagine what it's going to be like for the summer. And I mean, I'm armed and I'm licensed and I'm the police, and I don't even go out. I try not to even go outside when it get dark. And that's that says a lot. I'm just being honest, but we shouldn't live like this, and we shouldn't be in fear of coming outside and worried about, am I going to get carjacked? Or, is my 16-year-old daughter going to get shot while I'm in the car driving, going to the store or taking her to school, or we just going somewhere.
Yep.
I shouldn't have to worry about that. No parent should have to worry about their kid being shot playing outside. I grew up playing with everybody, knew everybody on the block. These kids, my daughter don't know what it's like. Yeah. She don't know what it's like to go outside and hang out on the block. And we stay in a nice neighborhood. Your neighbors now.
But do you know your neighbors?
Yeah, I know my neighbors, but I mean, again, my neighborhood is good, but it's not that many kids on the block. Like when my son was growing up, all of the kids were his age. My son, 29. So he moved, he went away to college. He graduated from Grambling, never came back. He was like, Mom, good. Now he lives in Houston, Texas. He had the friends on the block. My daughter didn't have that. It's nobody on the block for her to play with. And it's starting to get kind of bad over here.
Man, I got a 14-year-old and, she can't go anywhere unless I know the person, wherever she's going, her friends. I got to know their parents. I have to know the girl. I have to know
that was a 14-year-old, huh?
That was a 14-year-old coming in and getting them spot. Yeah, I'm talking about you and see.
You see that parent jump out at him? He was like,
I got a 14-year-old. Get out.
And so that's.
You talking about me?
And that was her response, because she coming over here grinning, wanting to smile and get in here and put her head in there. I knew that, but no, she can't go out, and I got to talk to wherever she's going. Even at school, I got to talk to the parents where this party is going to be at, or where this party is going to be, and then is there a place? Do you have a place for her to chaperone? Because I'll come in there and drink me some wine with you while my baby's there, but I'm not going to let I'm fearful. I got that fear. Because I even had to mention to her, about Hadia Pendleton and, and things like that. This girl did this thing in Washington, come standing on the bus stop, and I take my baby to school now, the days that she go, I take her. And then when she gets out, if I'm like 2 or 3 minutes late, you stay in the doors, you by the doors or so, and stay close to the inside as possible. Don't be out there because, it's like the Wild Wild West. You never know when.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Wild Wild West, let me ask this question. I don't know if you can or can't answer it or not. I know in Chicago, they traditionally say that the general catch-all answer is everything is a gang problem. You being out there on the street, being aware of what's going on around you, is it really a gang problem to that magnitude like they like to say?
I can't answer that because I honestly, you got cousins fighting with each other. Is that a gang? Because one hanging with somebody else. So I mean, I honestly, I don't know what we got. It's you a GD, but you got like 12 different subsections of GD. You got 15 different sections of vice lords and all of this. And what street you live on, that's the gang. So it's like you don't know. I don't know.
2 blocks instead of the gang. 2 blocks. You know,
blocks.
They like little terror cells. 2 blocks, a gang gonna protect 2 blocks.
It's got to be very competitive and out of control, and it is the wild, wild west, and it's a shame. And I've been wrestling with this for years and trying to figure out what is it. And I know there's no one person that can stand up and say, "Hey, stop, quit. Let's just end this right now."
Because they have no respect for the older ones, them older gangs.
That's the problem.
None.
And see, when I grew up, that was mandatory that you had to respect the elders around you. We knew everybody in the neighborhood I grew up down in Virginia, Norfolk. In the neighborhood I lived in, we mainly went to 1 or 2 churches in that neighborhood. Our parents grew up together in that neighborhood. You went to one high school. There was one high school in Norfolk, Virginia for black folks, Booker T. Washington High School. Until 1968, they integrated the schools. If you went to junior high school, if you lived in my neighborhood, there was one junior high school you went to, Jaycox. There was one elementary school, Lindenwood Elementary School. So we all knew each other. On my block, the man that owned the little grocery store lived directly across the street from us. The grocery store was 100 yards away. He walked to work every day. I worked in that store. 5 doors down across the street was Dr. Douglas, who was our doctor, who used to come to the house when you had the flu and get a shot of penicillin in your butt, and he went to the next house. The principal of Jaycox, the junior high school, lived directly behind us. The principal of the high school lived down the block. My uncle was a letter carrier, worked for the post office, and everybody else either worked for a government job or some kind of other local job. So everybody grew up together. Our parents grew up with all of those people. We all went to the same church. I was in the same Boy Scout group with everybody in my neighborhood. We knew everybody. So if I was out at the park down the street and around the corner and got into a little scrap with Charles or Larry or one of my buddies that I grew up with, before we could get home, our parents knew what we had done. Okay? They were waiting for us on the front porch, waiting for you to walk up those stairs. So that doesn't exist anymore. So the neighborhood policing, and we knew the local police officers, and most of them were people of color, or if it was a white cop, we knew him too. He may not have lived in our direct neighborhood, but he lived in the neighborhood next door. He knew our parents as well. So that's what's missing. That's part of what's missing. The neighborhood is not a neighborhood. It's a place where we live, but we really don't know our neighbors, and there's no self-policing. Today, if there was self-policing, they call that snitching. Whether your mom called my mom, that's snitching. Or if you call the police, that's snitching. But that curtailed, it stopped a lot of the crazy that was going on before it got out of hand. Okay? And if Miss Frederica called my mom and say, "Is Charles over there?" And say, "Yeah, Frederica, he's over here clowning." She said, "Slap him upside the head and send him home." And I'm going to meet him at the door with another kick in the butt. That's
And when
what
Daddy come home, you get it too.
Oh, you got another butt whipping. Absolutely.
Yeah, my mama did that, but I called it child abuse.
Well,
Yeah.
you're still alive, though, aren't you?
My son say that too, and he alive and he's prospering
right.
now. I got the 16-year-old, and she says, "You black mamas always trying to put fear in us." And I'm looking at her like, "Girl, who you been?" I'm like, "Who you been talking to?"
Mm-hmm.
I don't play.
You all got to see from one of Tavis Smiley's, and this is available. One of Tavis Smiley's State of the Black Union, when Dr. Julia, when Dr. Julia Hare was on there, and when she talked about black children and discipline, and when she talked about the youth, I'm gonna look for it and have Lita play it, but you got to hear it because Dr. Julia Hare was really, God rest her soul, she was really, really good with explaining the problems that we have, some of the problems that we're having with our youth. And I think one of the things that I've tried to do, in dealing with the kids, we got to listen to them. We got to listen to them. Okay. So my daughter comes in, right. And she's from dealing with school and she got a lesson. And so she's learning the compound elements and stuff like that. And so she tested me. She asking me what's H2O and AI, and then I'm saying what these things are, and she's all, oh, look at you know.
She's tickled. Yeah.
Yeah, I
you
know.
Cool. They think we don't know. They think we don't know.
I know a little something, but the fact of the matter is that for the next 6-7 days, that's what she was doing. And she kept doing that. So I told her to go to that big library called Google, and look that up and then learn all of those elements, memorize all of those elements and keep going further with that. See, we kind of like get pushed out of the game, or something gets pushed out of us. But Louis Carr, he said something profound, and it just busted my head wide open. We got to keep telling our kids that they are inherently great.
Oh my God. That's crazy you say that, because we were outside yesterday at night, and my daughter was like, "Ma, look at the stars." And I'm like, you know about the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper? And she said no. And I'm like, how you not know about this? I pay all this money for you to go to school. You don't know they don't teach you the Big Dipper and Little Dipper? And so I started showing her and explaining to her and stuff. And I say, girl, if you was in Egypt where we came from, I said, you came from greatness. You are great. She said, no, I am great. I say, no, you were born into greatness. Mm-hmm. We were smart. Mm-hmm. I said, we knew how to take care of things. We were doctors. We were lawyers. Mm-hmm. We were medicine doctors mm-hmm. back then. I said, that's what they kidnapped. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to feel her mad with this stuff. Mm-hmm. So when she get older, I'm like, they didn't just kidnap black people. They kidnapped smart people. Mm-hmm. They came over and learned from us how to do stuff. And then they stole our stuff. And I say, and Lauren, I'm gonna show you now. Black folks out here selling weed that are made illegal. Probably should have said that, but it is what it is. So my thing is, learn your history. So when you learn your history and you know what happened in the past, can't nobody ever fool you. Can't nobody ever tell you nothing, because you know where you came from. You came from greatness. Mm-hmm. And I say, you are great. Every day you great.
Right.
Even if you fail,
you great.
You get back up and you start back over again, but learn from that mistake and climb to the next level. Mm-hmm. I say, because mama is not perfect. Mama don't fail a whole bunch of times. My knees scraped up, hands, man, jacked up, everything. But I never gave up.
That's right.
I'm a black single mama that took care of 2 kids, one in college. One graduated from college and on his own. And I have you. And I say, now, I will be happy when you're done with everything. I said, because right now I'm rich, but I want to be richer when you're done, when you have succeeded. That's how my father taught me. My dad raised 4 girls by himself. And so everything that I seen my dad do, I try to do. And I try to do for my kids. Give them the love that I didn't get because my dad worked so much. He was a worker. So he had time for that. I'm going to come to your volleyball, basketball games. I'm going to do this. No, he didn't do that. He went and made the money so that we can have what we want to have. And so that's what I do with my kids. But I add in that love and I spend time and I take them and I do things because I work 3 jobs and I don't know how the heck I ended up managing to take care of my kids and still giving them that love and nurturing and spending that time. I had my days set where I needed to be with my kids. And I was with them every night to make sure that they were in the bed. You know, and that's and I can understand the single mamas out here in the street that's going through. Because my son wasn't no perfect son. I had to kick his, you know what? I had to snap on him. Oh, you want to run away? Okay, let me send you to your daddy. Let me let you go and stay with your daddy since you feel like he can do a better job. And I believe that he probably can do a better job, but I'm gonna let you experience that. And he came back and you know, he was like, "Mom, I'm gonna do what I need to do." But in the meantime, I still had to get in his behind and, you know, have to call his dad and help out with stuff. But it's nothing like having a mother's love.
True.
It's nothing like having a father's love. And those kids want it and they yearn it. And I get it because I wanted my mother's love. But of course, my mother, you know, she did what she did. And so my dad raised us, you know, and I try to instill in my kids that family is important and that you are siblings and you are like this. And so if we can get our families out in the community to come back to that, because both sets of my grandparents,
to the extent that black relationships.
Go ahead.
Because what our kids now are missing is them old school grandparents. Okay, them old school grandparents instilled in you life lessons. My grandparents in the South, they had pigs in their backyard. If I threw my food away, I got a whooping because I was supposed to throw that food in that white slop bucket. I'm kind of telling my age a little bit there, but I had to throw that food in that white slop bucket for them pigs to eat. And my grandmother would get me up. She'd get me ready for Sunday school. I go to Sunday school with Deacon Gorey. And when Sunday school was over with, I look up my grandmama in church. Church over with, we at the house, food already cooked. She done cooked the food before she even left out the house.
That's right.
The pastors ate dinner before we did. But we all prayed together, but they ate before we did. They got their plate. I used to be mad at the pastor for that. I was like, how you going to eat before us? You don't even live here. But
now, where did you grow up? Where was
my grandparents are from Louisiana, but they ended up moving to Texas, Carthage, Texas.
Okay.
And my mom's parents, they're from Mississippi. But they ended up moving to Evanston, and then they landed in Maywood. So I mean, I had great grandparents, both sets, and that's what molded me. They stayed together, both sets to the end. And I mean, I think a lot of my grandparents' upbringing made me who I am, and just the experience that I went through in my childhood to get me to understand what a lot of people go through on the street. And so that's my passion of doing what I do off the clock and helping the community. Because I know what it's like to be a single mom, taking care of your kids and struggling and making it work. I did it.
Don't stop.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing. We need it.
So where can people find you and your organization?
I have a page on Facebook called I Am L. They can go on there and like the page I Am L, and I put up like all of the things that I do in the community. My partner and I make sure I got that right on there.
Okay. Well, we want to thank you and applaud you for coming on the show today, sharing some of the information that you have shared with us. Any of you guys got anything else they want to say to her before she slips away?
Keep on.
Thank you.
Keep on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
No problem. And it's called I Am on Facebook. I Am, and they can like the page. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you,
Officer Goree. Thank you, officer.
Absolutely.
Hey, I'm gonna need some of them get out of jail tickets you got for me, okay? You know.
When Beretta say you do the crime, you do the time.
Hey, right. Tell him.
You ain't think I knew about Beretta. I used to watch Beretta.
That's right. It was cool. That's right. You better think about that crime before you do it.
Yeah.
That way you don't have to worry about doing the time.
You ain't doing nothing wrong.
Thank you.
My uncle called that. The name of the game is you asked for it, not what.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you. Can't thank you enough. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
You know, we appreciate you. Much love to you and your family. You know, and please come back and visit again sometime. You know.
Yeah. Give us an update.
Just invite me out.
There you go.
No, you got the gun and the badge. You can bum rush. Come on in.
Oh no! See, I don't misuse that power. I've seen a lot of them go under.
Yeah, I heard that.
There you go. All right. Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Great guest.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
All right, so when we get to the green room, I will give you a few choice words as soon as we get to the green room.
We are still live, Professor. We're still live.
I'm just warning you. I haven't said anything.
Okay.
You know, right. I'm going to be COOL right now. You don't even have to worry about that. This is Moore's Day, baby. I'm going to put nothing on you.
Okay. All right.
Wow, that was it took me back to my childhood.
Yes.
And my adulthood, and it's helped me focus in on what I can do, what I should do, and I hope that she inspired other people to, don't just sit back and go, oh well, you got to get involved, you got to commit, and that's what she did as a single mom. She committed to her children and made it happen.
Yep,
she worked 3 jobs, and I listened very carefully. So it's been a struggle for her, but she made it through. And we need to get those neighborhoods back in order.
That's the only way. Is we gotta listen. We got to listen to them, and we got to love them through.
Yeah.
And then those that are spoiled. The ones that are spoiled, they got to get checked. You got to get checked. We can't. With too many passes, we giving away. And then, as far as the media content that they consume, there has to be some balance added to it. You have to. Because they're seeing a lot of mayhem and this, that, and other. All the great artists that are out today. They always was talking about the hard life and dealing with the community. So, or how they was doing it, man, I had to do this and I had to do that and I had to do the other. But it seemed like we were able to put anything on the other side of the scale to bring it down, I mean, it's all right to have those experiences from coming up through hard times and all that stuff. But what about the other things that can add? What about the love and the fluff and stuff that can put some weight on it to like take everything off of that rap thing, or off of that violence thing? Because the one thing I'm trying to talk to, my child about it. Look, you ain't got to jump to the gun and get mad all the time, and what I was told, through my uncles, remember your ABCs, boy, always be cool. And so, because we go to the extreme. It's like when you feel like your little space or your little world is violated, you got to do something crazy. Back in the day for us, is the question used to be what you want to do. You want to thump, and you want to go head up. Let's throw some hands. And it was, it was legit to do things like that. But it's like now when you punch a button, it's got to be death or nothing. It's like the thing, sticks and stones may break my bones and names will never hurt me and stuff. It's like that don't exist no more. It's like when somebody these principles or these whatever these imaginary things that they have in their mind, oh man, you disrespected me. Then all of a sudden I got to kill you over some dumb stuff. Mm-hmm. It's nothing. You didn't get hurt. Didn't nobody put no hands on you, but some imaginary thing that you did. Oh man, you disrespect me. You fronted me off. Crazy stuff. Things go to the extreme. It's like, it's like road rage, just living the life or something like that. And when we used to cut, you remember how a person would instigate. You get from, man, I'm gonna put this stick on your shoulder, right? You remember? Look, man, you ain't bad. If you so tough, knock this off my shoulder. Person, right. None of that happened no more. And then when that happened to me, I would end up fighting the dude that put the hand. I was wanting somebody to put something on my shoulder so I could fight that dude, especially if I knew I couldn't whoop this other dude. I'm gonna
pick your battles.
Yeah, I'm gonna fight somebody else, but we got to listen to them because they're going through some things, and we got to let them know that there's nothing new under the sun. You might think it is. Explain it, and then when we do explain things to them, don't try to be so, because they don't want to hear nothing we got to say. We got to trick them. I used to love my mother. I love my mother because she used to trick me into the things that she wanted me to really think about. Because we all know we got hard-headed. We got hard-headed. At that one point, we got you can't tell me nothing. Nobody, you're an old woman. You can't tell. All that stuff. We was running through that. But my mama got slick, and she would trick me. And she would laugh. She laughed because she knows she got me. Because what she wanted me to do, she would like either do the opposite, and she knew that I was going to, because of the way I'm going to try to do my thing, and that would be exactly what she wanted me to do. Mm-hmm. So we got to start playing that. Stop trying to be equal to the kids and trick them. Man, we got to
use a little psychology, you're saying,
yeah,
huh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We got to trick them. And don't be afraid of them. I did find that Dr. Julia had, because the youth today aren't really scared. They're not scared of nothing. You need to hear Dr. Julia Hare say that.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yep. Very good stuff. The one thing that I realized listening to Officer Corey was not only history that we all have, but respect. And, respect nowadays just don't hear too much about it. Like, reminiscing as Lee was and everybody else. So I was coming up in the 70s and 80s, and I lived in South Shore, middle-class neighborhood. And a lot of the gang members, this is going back to what they call themselves the Black P. Stone Nation. A lot of the gang members I came up with. So, I never judged. We played basketball together, got older, went out and drank beer together, everything else. And I just remember how sometimes they'll try to put that hardcore gang image on me. Hey, what's up, bro? How you doing, man? Oh, come on, man. We used to run big wheels together. So I don't want to hear that stuff, man. So we start to laugh at everything else and go from there. I also remember, once again, respect factor. If we're on the sidewalk in the summertime and a mother and children would come by, everybody would pave the way as they park the Red Sea, let them go by and take off our baseball caps while they walk past. Because that's what we did.
Right.
And that's because somebody told you that. And someone gave you the knowledge, look, there's a respect factor of the things to do and not to do. A quick story about in the same neighborhood, a good friend of mine named Abe. So Abe became a gang member, got caught, went to prison. He was protected by the gang members, the Black P. Stone Nations in prison. The one thing they told him while I was in prison was, they told him, look, while you're here, get yourself your GED and make something of yourself. We're in here for life. But you got a chance to make something of yourself. So they protected him. So he went in there, got his GED, became a truck driver. When he got out, was able to make some money and everything else. I remember I ran into him in the summertime, and I had not seen like Abe by this point maybe 10 or 15 years. Came by the block, we reminisced, hugged, went out and got some ribs, had some beer, went by the lake for the summertime, had a good old time, and reminiscing. And talk about how people change their thought. Now,
my mom and dad, working class people, and my dad, like most people, were proud of their property. Get off my grass. I got time for you, people walking my grass and everything else. So of course, people made fun of him, but look, my voice, you think my voice deep? My dad's deep his voice was deeper than mine. So as a kid, I had a lot of underwear changes. People scared the piss out of me. So having said all that, that same booming voice going towards the kids in the neighborhood, and we're sitting there reminiscing, and Abe was like, "Man, I owe your father an apology. My dad passed away." I said, "Why is that?" Man, even though he was cussing our asses out, he was more like a father to us than our real fathers. And I was like, man, I never thought about it like that. But see, once again, you just never know the influences that you have on people when you go back in time between when you were a kid and when you were a teenager to when you were becoming an adult and became an adult. Your mind changes, and your mind allows yourself to evolve if you allow yourself to do that. Right. And just the fact he said that, just said, look, man, I gotta apologize to your father, man. He was close to being a real father to me. I didn't know my own father. So you just never know these nuances in life that happen that way. And I hate to say, unfortunately, that was the last time I saw Abe. He went home and he passed away. Mm. And that stuck with me ever since because he was just getting his life together.
Yeah.
We take life for granted. You know how life is and everything like that. But just the fact that conversation I had was the last one I was just so proud of him. Coming from where he came from, being in the streets, going to prison, getting his act together, becoming a truck driver. I missed him so much because I knew where his life was going because he was on the right track. But you just never know the influence along the way.
Mm. Chocolate Yoda, you've been quiet. What's happening?
Oh, I met a man 19 years ago who said to me that he only spoke to improve upon the silence. So sometimes it's better to sit back and listen.
Well, that's true, which kind of goes along with some advice that my dad passed along. He said, son, when you walk into a room, don't be the first person to speak out loud. Walk in and get the temperature of the room. Find out where the conversation is before you start running your damn mouth. So
but I do have a question. All of these, beautiful, nostalgic Hallmark comments that everyone's been making, and it was kind of interesting to listen for the last 45 minutes or so, because I heard things that seem on the surface possibly contradictory about how the youth have no respect and they act this way and they act that way. Two questions. One, who is it that raised the youth of today? Isn't it us? And number two, regarding respect, what if your elders don't deserve respect?
Your number two question was never an option in my family. Whether you didn't like Big Mama or Uncle Bill or whoever, you never disrespected them because that was a position that they held. Now you can go home. If you go to Big Mama's house and she did something that you didn't agree with or whatever, you want to go home and have a discussion with Big Mama's daughter, my mama, then okay, then you could do that. But you were never allowed to disrespect Big Mama or Grandpa.
Fair enough. So then question one, since we've been somewhat critical of the youth today.
What's question one?
Who raised them?
Man, I got you on that. That's good. I mean, and listen, I say that all the time because Billy Preston made a song. He said, nothing from nothing leaves nothing. So I agree with you. Okay, so some of that responsibility does go on us. But then again, too, it goes so far because then a lot of times our youth are subject to other influences that we don't, because we spoiled them, we allow that. A lot of stuff has to be monitored. It has to be monitored. And I agree with you 100%. These kids did not birth themselves. Ain't no which came first, the chicken or the egg. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. You cannot make any number stuff out of, you cannot add anything to nothing.
Yeah. Well, so I appreciate that answer, Professor, because I hear people of our generation, just constantly criticize, the quote unquote youth of today. And that's always my question is who raised them?
I mean,
well, I think that depends on who you ask that question to.
That's right.
If you ask that question to someone in my age generation, my answer might be different than someone who might be 40 years old. Because a 40-year-old mom and dad is a part of the hip-hop generation because hip-hop, they grew up on. And now, don't take what I'm saying as a negative towards hip-hop, but it does have influence. Along with rock and roll and some R&B, and music has an impact on our lives and our way of thinking and all of that.
So are we saying that there are parents that don't have more influence over their children than hip hop?
Yes, I would say that. Yeah, and especially if that parent is a single parent, whether you're a male or female, mom or dad, and you have a kid or two, and you are working 12 hours a day away from the household, and the kids are at home, they're listening to what they want to listen to. They're on the cell phone with who they want to be on the cell phone with. They're playing these crazy games. So there's a lot of influences that you, mom or dad, or both, have no control over. And that lies another problem. Now, in my generation, when I came home from school, there was an adult in the house, whether it was my dad or my mom or my older sisters or an aunt or neighbor. I had to report to someone. There were no cell phones. We had a telephone, a landline, and that was our only communication with mom or dad outside of the household. But we had someone that we had to answer to. And if not, the rule was you take your butt in the house, you work, do your homework, you can have a snack or whatever, and you stay in the house. You do not go out under any circumstances because I said so. And that's my house rule. And you respected that. But today, if you say that to a child, I'm not sure it's going to, whether they're going to adhere to that, whether they're going to respect you.
So that's the failing of the parent, perhaps.
Of course. Absolutely. So when you look at different generations, as generations go on, things get lost from generation to generation. Those values that were instilled in my generation, maybe the 10 years after me, maybe 15 years, since then, it's really, really diminished a lot, I think. Because I don't hear the parents having the same attitude, not all, some, maybe most, have the same attitude that my parents have. Now, ladies and gentlemen, not one parent ever has a degree in parenting. You don't go to school
for that
to learn how to parent.
Right.
It's interesting that we've been around for 300,000 years collectively and haven't been able to figure this out. And what I hear from every successive generation is how terrible the new generation is. Socrates complained about the youth of today, and that was 2,500 years ago, roughly.
Of course.
Yeah. So maybe a lot of that is just perception, and there's not that much meat on that bone. If every generation is complaining about how bad the new generation is, then why hasn't society collapsed by now?
It is collapsing.
Maybe. Well, I don't know. I wouldn't.
Well, you're more optimistic about it than I am, and that's fine. But the proof is in the pudding. Look at what we're dealing with today. Look at all the crime and dysfunction.
My answer to that, and I believe Reggie said it beautifully earlier, and I hope it was Reggie, but it was, there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
Right? So if that's true, and I believe it is, then this is the same as it ever was. That's, and I'm not necessarily saying you're wrong. What I'm saying is I have a different perspective on it.
Understand, and that's fine. But you cannot give me a strong enough argument against what we see. What is happening today is worse than what it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
So then
the crime level is out of control.
That used to go on. Where's the slavery that used to go on? I mean, again, if we're talking about what we see, what did people see 100 years ago? What did people see 200 years ago?
That you're right, but we're not talking about that particular subject. What we're talking about is
what you're talking about, which is the idea.
No, we're not. We're talking about two different things. Absolutely. Okay. Two different things. I'm talking about family raising our kids and the responsibility that we have. I'm not talking about slavery and lynching and all that shit. That's a whole other topic.
We are talking about the same thing. We agree that we are talking about family and raising children.
Yes.
You brought up the idea that things are worse than they are now, and what I'm saying
as relates to that topic, yes,
right. And what I'm saying is that is not a perspective that I share. Again, that doesn't mean you're wrong. Doesn't mean I'm right. I'm just telling you my perspective on it.
Okay.
So, and in my perspective, I agree with the professor that there is nothing new under the sun. I believe in the lyrics of the David Byrne song, "Same as it ever was." The only thing that's different is that this is what we're experiencing, and people tend to think that their time is either better or worse than the times before. There's a psychological principle for that, and I forget the actual name of it right now, but, it is possible that this is just what humans go through. And it's not necessarily worse because, if we're talking about just things that people see and things that are going on, I think a strong argument can be made that people in the past have seen way worse things than what we're seeing.
You have children?
At the very least, that they've seen things, they're seeing the same thing that they used to see. And I'm sorry, did you ask me a question?
Yeah. Do you have children?
I have a child.
Okay. Do you think that your child is having the same environment that you had?
It depends on what you're defining as environment.
Opportunities, safety, camaraderie, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, those et ceteras leave a lot of room for interpretation, but essentially, yes.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Essentially,
well,
yes.
Maybe where you live in a bubble that I don't live in, and that's okay. But based on my experiences living from coast to coast in all kinds of neighborhoods, around all kinds of people, rich, poor, black, white, blue, green, I'm telling you, this is a different world. I'm not saying it's all bad. It is very different than what it was when I was 16 years old. It is a lot better as it relates to relationships among people. Race relationships are better. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Are people still out of line? Absolutely. Can things get better? Absolutely. That's my point. Till next week, thank you so much for being a part of it.
Street News Now.